Goes without saying that I'm very honored and excited to be named both general manager and head coach of the Kingston Frontenacs. I first of all want to thank Doug and the Springer family for the opportunity to take on both of these roles. I'm fully aware of the responsibility that comes with both of these titles, and I appreciate the confidence that Doug has shown in me by giving me this opportunity to lead the organization. I'd also like to thank the Florida Panthers and Toronto Maple Leafs for the opportunity that they have given me over the last 3 seasons. I've had the privilege of working with and building some relationships with some incredibly bright people that are both passionate about the game to the same level that I am, and that experience has given me great preparation and knowledge to help me prepare for today. Finally, I'd like to thank my family, my parents, my 2 brothers, Mark and John, and my wife, Kelly, and my 2 little sons, Cooper and Duke. Kingston has become a very special place for my family and I. We enjoyed it the last time that we were here. We're all excited to be coming back, to becoming a part of this community again. This city and its greater community, in my opinion, has everything that you would want as an OHL player, starting with ownership, a beautiful downtown area, the potential of playing in the OHL while receiving a Queen's education, the facilities at the Leon Center, and our very passionate fan base. Our goal for this organization is to build an environment and a culture that strives in development. Development can happen in a lot of different ways at the major junior level. It starts with developing people, and including our players and staff. It continues through the classroom, through players' education. And then obviously on the ice, finally, we want to give our players every possible resource to develop. The CHL, in my opinion, is the best development league in the world for the game of hockey, and I'm excited and honored to be a part of the Kingston Frontenacs organization moving forward. The reality here in Kingston is the bar has been raised. The standard has to be higher of what we expect out of ourselves and what it is meant to be a Frontenac. We will need to do this collectively, together. It's always going to be about we, us, our, and team. We both in management and as a coaching staff will always make decisions based on what we feel is best for our hockey club going forward. Ultimately, I'm excited to get to work with all parts of the organization, which includes our business staff, scouts, support staff, our hockey operations, and coaching staff. We will look to find new ways that we can improve, and most importantly, we must compete in everything we do, whether it be a recruitment, player, or a 50-50 puck at center ice. We will compete in all we do. Any questions?
How do you think you'll manage your time with both roles?
Well, I think I'm fully aware of the fact that there's a lot of work that has to go into both roles. As I said, it's going to be about we and us, and nobody can do either of these roles alone. I think we already have a great coaching staff in place, guys that I've gotten to know well over here since I've been hired as the head coach. And obviously on the managing side, we'll work through that process on which people we can obviously lean on to help in that respect, but it's going to be a collective effort. We're all working together with the same vision.
My question is, with working with Sheldon and Kyle and Brendan with the Toronto Maple Leafs, what one thing did you learn from them that you'll take in your new positions with Kingston?
I think the thing that the Leafs do at the National Hockey League level that separates themselves is their development process and how important development is to their organization, whether it be through obviously how they run the Marlies program, with the skills coaches that are involved. So that, I guess, experience of going through that program for the last year has just re-emphasized the importance of development and being at the junior level. For us, getting young men at the age of 15 to 20 years old, we have to really put emphasis on that area of our program, not just when the players arrive here to Kingston to play, but most importantly, as soon as they're drafted as a Kingston Frontenac, we have to monitor their progress and do everything we can to give them feedback, to help them be in the right situation, so when they do arrive, they're going to be ready to excel.
Well, what have you been up to in the last week? You've been here a week or so. I know you got the GM's job just recently. You didn't have that job when you first got here. So what have you been doing, stepping into the coaching and then now the GM, just this last week or so?
Yeah, to be honest, obviously my family just moved back to Kingston, so in many ways trying to get them settled and be organized, and then just diving into 100% of Frontenac's business. So on the coaching side now, obviously on the managerial side as well, we've got a lot of work to do, but we do have some time between now and the start of the season, so we're going to use every possible day and hour for that matter to get ourselves organized in all aspects.
Was this something you had in mind initially when you arrived at the Frontenacs as a coach?
No, at the time, obviously, my passion the last 8 seasons has been about coaching. Obviously, the two roles work very closely together, where, you know, in reality, the coach wants to draft or have players drafted that are of the same identity of the way the team wants to play. So it should work in very good cohesion, obviously managing our scouts and the type of players that we are looking for here in Kingston. The traits that are important to us will all help us on the coaching level. And so I'm excited to have the opportunity to lead our organization in that manner. But as I've said before, it's going to be a collective effort where we as a group do these things together.
Coach, did you throw your hat in the ring, or did they approach you about being the GM, or how did it play out?
It's just something that's come together in the last couple of days through our conversations Doug and I have had when I arrived back in Kingston, just talking about our philosophy on what we believe in and where we see, obviously both of us bleed France's colors proudly, and where we see this club moving here in the future has kind of led us to this decision. So obviously I'm very fortunate to have both of these roles, and I'm very appreciative of Doug giving me the responsibility of both. And it's not something I take lightly, so I'm really just excited to get going. We have a lot of work to do, and I'm just really happy to be back in junior hockey.
Follow-up? Are you worried about, you know, the coaching taking away from spending more time GMing and not coaching, or have you learned from past people that how to share your time, or help me out with that?
Yeah, the bottom line is there's a lot of time in the day. We won't be outworked by anybody, and what needs to get done will get done in the best possible way. But as I said, I realize that there's a lot of details that need to be set on as far as roles, responsibilities throughout the organization, and we'll make sure that everyone has a proper role and description of how they're going to be valued and contribute to our organization. But ultimately, we need contributions from a lot of people at all levels, and I don't think it's going to take away from anything on the coaching side, that's for sure.
My question for you is, you spent 3 years in the NHL between the Florida Panthers and the Toronto Maple Leafs. So is there anything specific that you've learned during that time that you plan to take with you into coaching the OHL, and how that will translate in junior hockey?
The biggest takeaway at the National Hockey League level is just how good the best players are, and how, I guess, detailed and driven they are to being the best. And so the one thing I would pass along to our players is it's not going to be easy. 3 years ago, before I left for the NHL, I saw either a player on our team that I thought was a drafted that had a legitimate chance to probably play in the National Hockey League someday. You realize where the bar is and how good those players are, and the work that needs to be put in for our guys to have a chance to play at the National Hockey League level. And being a development league, just the importance of development continuing through the stream of our players as we have them, but the work's not done there. They still are going to have a lot of work to do to get to that level. For me personally, a lot of the faces I already know coming back, but obviously to get to know all those staff members that I talked about and reacquaint myself with the people that I've been away from the last 3 years. And we hopefully will spend that time as well, continuing to build relationships with our players, to slowly introduce some of the key fundamentals and habits that we want to be important and ingrained in our group. Ultimately, our fundamentals and our habits are going to dictate how good our structure can be on the ice. And then obviously on the managing side, just trying to get everything organized as far as our scouting process, possibly looking at recruitment opportunities. So we're just going to use the time that we have. I mean, we're fortunate in these circumstances to have a little extra time to get organized for the season, and we'll use every last hour to make sure that we're prepared as possible.
Let's go one quick one, the last one. It's going to be a kind of a crazy year when it comes to minor hockey. Minor hockey might not be back until January. What kind of pressure does that put on scouts to scout the best minor midgets in Ontario and the United States when they might not even be playing?
Yeah, it's a good question, and I think there's probably 20 other teams in the OHL, and there's obviously teams at the National Hockey League level that are wondering about junior hockey. So I think it's probably a fluid process for us that we're going to have to constantly be monitoring and evaluating how we can do that. But in today's day and age with video scouting, obviously analytics, there's more than just the eye test for us to be able to get our work done on players and understand what they're all about. So we're going to use all those possible avenues.
You might have to look at major band players from this past year, see if they have the potential. If they're not going to play, no one's going to play next year.
Yeah, we'll have to cross that bridge when we get there. I think hopefully, everyone's optimistic and hoping that we'll get back to some sort of normalcy as time goes on here. But we'll just have to see how that goes and evaluate it and plan accordingly.
Hi Paul, it's Sarah from the Ontario Hockey League. You mentioned, the focus is obviously, starting to foster those relationships with players. It's definitely been an interesting summer with not too many people have been able to meet up in groups. So how have you kind of started building those relationships with players, whether that's via Zoom and via phone calls?
Yeah, so we've had a few different Zoom calls with the entire group. Also spent some time individually, probably multiple times for each player, having a FaceTime conversation through the use of technology, just really so I can get to know them on a personal level, put a face to a name, and also try to reiterate things that are going to be important to us moving forward. And then throughout the summer, since I've been hired, we've sent out development emails, again, just trying to highlight some key fundamentals and also some leadership pieces that are going to be an integral part of the culture that we're going to try to create here in Kingston.
Welcome back to Kingston, Paul.
Thank you.
In talking to some guys that I know that I've coached with in the past that have moved on from the OHL and from university hockey into the NHL and into pro hockey, the one thing that they say is that one of the major differences is that every player shows up in pro hockey prepared to work every day. And with young kids, that's not always the case. Are you prepared? What do you do as a coach to in a mindset to deal with kids that aren't always as motivated as guys that are doing this for a living?
Well, that's the challenge, I think, in any job or field that you're in, is to motivate your people. And ultimately, that for me, that falls on your culture and the habits that you want to be emphasized. I really do believe what gets emphasized gets done. And so for us, we're going to emphasize those work habits on a daily basis. There really is no in between for me when it comes to competing. You're either someone who competes or you don't. And to be a Frontenac, you're going to have to compete. And that's going to mean working hard every day, having a growth mindset, and trying to get better in every way possible as not just a player, as a person as well.
If I may ask a follow-up. You've been away from the league. I'm sure you've had great experiences in Florida and Toronto. What are some of the bigger lessons you've learned as a coach, as a person, by working at that level?
Going through the NHL, I think just working with some of the players at that level, it was incredible to me just to see how coachable they were. Even some of the best players in the world, how much feedback they want, how easy they were to talk to and to coach, because ultimately they're looking for any small detail that they can use to help them to get better. And on the other side of it is just how tough a league the NHL is. The margins are so small between teams. The difference between winning and losing really is nothing at that level. But also just reemphasizes the importance of practice and having a structure and a system and an identity for your team. Because the teams that have the most success at that level don't waver from their structure on a night-to-night basis. They just continue to play the same way consistently, and that's what we're going to strive towards in Kingston.
And with the Leafs and Florida Panthers, you have worked with a lot of young stars and helped aid in their development. So how do you incorporate what you learned helping develop these young players at the NHL level with the young stars you have in Kingston?
Yeah, I believe it goes back to the fundamental level. And I think sometimes whether it be through minor hockey or even at the major junior level. We're all guilty of trying to have these big system ideas that we see played at the NHL level, but the only way the system is good is to have elite fundamentals and habits. And so for us, at the teaching level, obviously whether it's the NHL or junior, I don't think it really matters. You need to have those two things. So we're going to work every day on our fundamentals and how important they are to our group. We're going to try to do everything we can to improve the skill on our hockey team and give them confidence. So when we do go into a game, the work we've done allows us to be prepared for those moments.
You spoke about it a little bit, but I was wondering if, at this point you're able to forecast at all what the next couple of months are going to look like, and, what are your priorities for I guess, the coming weeks as you look ahead to the season?
My first priority is the people, spending as much time as I can, again, either reacquainting myself or introducing myself to our staff members, whether it be scouting, support staff, anybody in the organization that I need to make sure I connect with and start to build those relationships. Obviously on the player side, it's important that we continue to build on those relationships and have constant communication. And then ultimately it's to learn the league again. Being in the NHL the last 3 years, it's all the players that I would have seen have now gone on to graduate. So going back, watching video, doing some form of analytical analysis on other teams of the league to give us as much information as we can on the players that are coming back and what teams' depth charts are going to look like as we move ahead.
Hi Paul, what should fans be looking forward to this season for the Frontenacs?
Well, I think we've got a young, exciting group with only room to grow, and obviously they've taken some steps in the right direction last year. We're, as I said, going to raise the bar. Should be a team that works extremely hard, that's competitive, that they see grow hopefully right in front of their eyes as the season goes on.